Webinar is now streaming live on YouTube, it says. Good evening, everybody. This is Derek Bros here with Global Witness, and we have Jeffrey Doherty with us.
I'm sorry, that was my fault.
Is that your fault, Jeff?
I fixed it, though.
I saw you did that. I saw you did that with Wayne this morning.
I did. I'm a little bit off. I'm not quite back to my full witch yet, but I'm this close, so I'm feeling great.
Well, great. Well, let me just welcome a few people here in the channel and let this load up. We've already got 385 here, so it's growing fast. Fishman. Hey, good to see you. Haven't seen that name before yet. So, and of course, Slow Chat isn't working very well. Good to see you, Scrub, Gemma Church, Curtis Lowe, Tracy, the best moderator in the world. Best Damn Podcast. Good to see you, John.
I saw Pleiadian's Tarot roll by.
Yeah, Pleiadian's Tarot. Yeah, if you see anybody, Love Matters, flying, screaming by things, I've got it on a 20-second delay, but yet that doesn't seem to matter when you have.
No, it doesn't. Lou Machado, I see her.
460 people in the room now. So as I watched one of Jeff's videos this morning, and so I thought that we would.
Thank you for that, Derek.
Yeah, of course. You know, I'm always watching your videos. I wake up, it's the first thing that I do, Jeff. I go, what is Jeff talking about?
Likewise, my friend, likewise.
So
the second thing I do, I start the coffee first.
Yes, coffee. So coffee and Pellegrino. Everybody wants to know what I'm drinking. Coffee and Pellegrino.
Combination.
So I wanted to really discuss it more, because what's interesting is that you came across something that I came across quite some time ago, and figured out that the rulers of the world in the translation of the scriptures refers to archons. So the mere fact that archons is not mentioned within the scriptures, but yet it is mentioned in the Nag Hammadis, immediately takes you back to the Nag Hammadis and says, oh, there's something about these Nag Hammadi scriptures that we should be paying closer attention to.
Absolutely. And the Greek word is straight up archons. There's no interpretation or, exegesis. It's just archons, ladies and gentlemen. And it's translated rulers who knows why. Yeah.
So when you hear that the rulers of the world are the ones that crucified Jesus, right? So, and when you hear that the rulers of the world are, that the ruler of the world is doing anything, understand that we're talking about archons. Now, if you are paying close attention and recognizing what archons are, they are operatives for the demiurge and Yaldabaoth. So Yaldabaoth being the ruler of the world, and the demiurge itself being the spirit of that, and the archons being operatives of the demiurge.
So is the demiurge an archon?
The demiurge would, what you can refer to the demiurge is not as an individual, but as a body, in the same way that everything else is. So the demiurge is the spirit of the archons that gets established within people.
Interesting.
And so just like everything else, just like there's a body of Christ, an awakened consciousness, that there is a body of the enemy. Right? That this is how it all operates, and that both are in you. You can either participate in one body or you participate in the other. The difference is, and I want to start this off by just letting everybody know, when I talk about how to identify within the scriptures who's who, I'm always referring to the attributes of that who is speaking, the attributes of what they're trying to accomplish. So let me just make this known. When anybody is out there listening to anybody saying that they are of God and that they are of Christ, and they're referring to scriptures, and they're telling you that their God has blinded you or has hidden something from you, that is not the Father.
Right, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So anybody that is telling you that, like, you've got these guys that think they're the two witnesses out there, and they're spewing a bunch of scripture and saying that they know all these mysteries of the texts, and that those mysteries have only been revealed to them. That is straight out bold-faced lies of the enemy, because no one from the Father has not blinded your eyes to anything, to nothing. that would be a very deceptive, deceitful God, would it not be?
Derek, do they know they're lying?
No, not in many cases they don't. But this is where they haven't been revealed, that they haven't been revealed the attributes of the Father. And that's the whole point, is that and I find this quite often, Jeff, is that people become enlightened, right? And immediately, since they're enlightened to some mysteries of the text, they feel like that they are of Christ. And now that they feel like, since they're enlightened and others aren't, then they have this relationship with the enemy, thinking it's God. And this is precisely what Christ was identifying with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, because all of them considered themselves enlightened, or they weren't doing what they were doing. And he was saying, but you don't understand, because you don't know who I am, and you don't know these attributes. Because you don't know me, that means you don't know the Father. And if you don't know the Father, you don't know me either. So it was very straightforward. And this is the most important thing. And Malia and I have discussed this at length, and we continuously discuss this in multitudes of ways, is that Christ said, who do you say I am? And that in and of itself was the identifier that he needed to see. Who do you say that I am? Because who you say that I am really will determine whether you know the Father. And if you know who I am, then you know who the Father is, and I'm good with you, right? But even then, I know what's inside of you, so I'm not going to entreat you. We're not going to be friends, right? Christ was not an easy dude to follow. It's funny that everybody thinks that he was all peace, love, and dope. He probably was one of the hardest people ever to follow. I mean, that's why his statements, when he would become frustrated with the apostles, he would say, how long must I bear with you? How long do I got to be here doing this? How soon can I get out of here? And
absolutely. And Derek, what you're saying so mirrors my own journey. I remember back when, I was in the Assemblies of God. I was a minister for 20 years. And I remember when I discovered that the so-called Apostle Paul was preaching another doctrine than the doctrine that Jesus preached. And I thought I had discovered the Holy Grail. I knew everything. I had found the truth. And then there was another time where I found another truth. I thought, oh, well, this is the one. And I thought I had found the truth. I was enlightened. I was the great oracle. And then I found another truth. And I thought, oh, I'm enlightened. I'm the great oracle. Now I've gotten to the place where I only think that for maybe 5 minutes. And then I realize, okay, this is just another thing that I'm seeing. And I'm just a kid in a candy shop noticing stuff that's been on the shelf the whole time. So we tend to get stuck in these I call them pseudo revelations. We think, oh, it is a real revelation, but we think it's the revelation. And we think we've got it all. So it's like when was it James and John and Peter, I think, that Christ took up with them on the Mount of Transfiguration, and he showed them his glorified self. And they're like, let's build 3 temples and just stay here. And he's like, no, you stupid idiots. We got to go back down and go to work. It's the same thing. We all want to build a temple and stay in a place just because it's a place of great revelation, but we're supposed to be moving from glory to glory.
Yeah, and keep in mind that the transfiguration of Christ on the mountain, which is what's so remarkable, people fail to understand. They go, oh, well, hey, he transfigured himself into Elijah and to Moses. He's all good. Sorry, but Moses, as you've pointed out, had horns. Moses was a magician. Moses was a purveyor of the ancient Egyptian secret mystery schools. Moses was very much a person of the demiurge, right? So, and he took the ancient mysteries of the mystery schools of Egypt and then retold them, which is why we even to this day have a story of Cain and Abel. Right? Cain and Abel is Set and Horus, period. He was repeating these things, and he only repeated these things a certain period of time. A portion of the people actually had to die off, so he was saying something new. He was creating a new paradigm, a new understanding of people. In fact, what I was talking with Malia about today is that if it wasn't for Moses and the Jews working with the Romans at the time, the world wouldn't even exist today.
And Derek, I've said and still contend that it was Moses who called in Yaldabaoth and entered into a covenant with him.
Well, of course. And Yaldabaoth, let's remember how Yaldabaoth appeared to Moses. Came by night in a pillar of fire and by day in a pillar of smoke, right?
That's right.
Now, with that said, there's certain things going on. And, this is a perfect lead in, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few things here, because there's something remarkable that's been going on. Everybody's been watching, everybody paying attention to the Falcon 9 rocket launches. I don't know whether you've seen any of them on video, Jeff, but the SpaceX Falcon 9 launch. Now, I've seen the space shuttle take off before. I've seen it take off at night before. I've seen rockets take off at being out in California. We've seen missiles take off and rockets take off from Vandenberg and Air Force Base. And I can tell you that that the signature of a rocket, of a hydrogen rocket, is quite specific. Right? You can see the fire because there is fire. As a result, hydrogen is simply water, right? So its byproduct is water, which is why you see smoke during the day. That's steam. That's the byproduct of the burning of hydrogen, being yielded from water. So the byproduct of it is steam. That's why there is such massive amounts of steam when a rocket takes off, right? That's not smoke, it's steam. So when you see that, when the rocket is going, that steam signature goes away once it speeds up, right? Because the steam itself cools. So you only see the fire of the rocket at that point. Now, what's taking place right now with SpaceX and their Falcon 9 rockets is quite unusual. And I'm going to show a video of that, because here's what's remarkable. You've got on Drudge Report and in the news, they're talking about China launching something that is very, very odd. So I'm going to show you there
was just some discussion of that in the chat room.
Okay, so I'm going to show you this. Let me go to this, share this screen here.
I think Lou brought it up, if I'm correct.
So I'm sharing the screen now. So right now you see this. That right there is a plume and it says Chinese hypersonic nuclear aircraft creates plume of light during secret test flight. Okay, so they're calling this a plume of light. Now, this plume was visible all over China and people could see this. And now you've got speculation of this plume being some type of secret, maybe ancient or alien technology. And this is in mainstream media, them talking about this plume from the Chinese, but completely ignoring the transition that this Falcon 9 rocket makes. So I'm going to show you.
Do you draw any correlations to the shape of that plume, or do you think it's just a random shape?
Oh, no. Well, I'm going to show you. There are definitely some correlations to what's going on here. So pay attention to this, and this is going to lead into who are the Archons, because that's who's running the show, folks.
Wow.
Straight up from the horizon. There we go. It's starting to tilt a little bit. Gosh, what a sight to see. And one of the few things that I guess we'd all be very happy to say that we saw right as the year was coming to a close. And look at how just immensely bright it is.
Okay, now you can see that's what a rocket looks like. So right now that is burning hydrogen.
And again, all the way from Vandenberg, so far away, but as it gets high enough.
But I'm going to fast forward here for a second.
Space. So this thing is massive in it.
Now you see that there is a different set of fuel. That is, something's happening here to this craft.
It's right. And such a great thing to be.
See, now that fuel now has its own light, right? The fuel itself, the byproduct, contains its own light. This is in the middle of the night here. And this plume can be seen when it takes off from California, can be seen all the way in eastern Texas. We're talking halfway across the entire country.
Wow.
So this is an incredible amount of light.
Watch here, and here we go. Now you see the sun hitting, and look at that. Really taking off now. My goodness.
See, it's almost as though they tested a certain kind of fuel right there. Do you see that?
And
see
now
how
you'll see it.
See how it generates its own light?
Through the night sky as.
Now let me pause this sound here. I'm just going to go up so this guy doesn't interrupt. Now the amazing thing is now then they turn that fuel back on. It is clearly a different kind of fuel. Okay, and look at it. It's more plasma. Okay?
This is amazing.
This is not normal, believe me.
No, it almost looks like it's generating a field in front of the craft.
Yeah. Now check that out. You see the stage after that is spewing bits of the fuel. Okay. Now I'm going to close ahead. Now see this shape right here. Look at this plume. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead here and I'm going to show you something else, because this guy's calling BS on this cover up as well. Let's follow this guy for a second.
Wow.
See, that guy said it looks like an alien.
Yeah.
Now let's go ahead here. Look at this. There it is, regular fuel. Now look at that image right there, Jeff. Okay, you see how this looks and what that looked like.
Yeah.
This phenomenon is that's
now what? Listen to this.
So
guy.
Can anyone tell me just what in the hell this phenomenon is that's been going on in the sky? Well, gee, Jake, it's a SpaceX launch. If you believe that, you can take your retarded sheeple ass and get the hell off my channel. You don't belong here. I've never been one to trust the government, and I've never been one to trust the mainstream media, and I damn sure don't believe for a second that this is a SpaceX launch. Just last year, we saw one of these in the sky, and if you look back far enough, you can find old pictures and old descriptions of this phenomenon happening in the sky long before SpaceX existed. You can find detailed descriptions of this same phenomenon happening in the sky, and even old pictures which outdate NASA and space travel altogether.
Now, remember I said, look at that image?
Yes, sir.
Look at that. So the point being here is that what we're experiencing, I believe, is a... Sorry, let me get back to this. What I believe is we are experiencing is a cover-up, just like this guy's saying. So he's saying that this is a cover-up of secret ancient technology. Now, the way that I look at this is that if you're in the know, you know, and you are working with these powers that be, you'll know when they're coming and where they're coming. You'll know when they're exiting and when they're entering. So to me, the launch of a SpaceX the launch of a missile itself would be the cover-up itself, to say, oh no, that was just our missile. So there's a missile, and then you see it in the proximity, and then there's this fuel. Either that, or we are directly working with somebody and creating this. That is not hydrogen. That is not normal technology. There is much more there. So wanted to bring...
Derek, any speculation as to why they would be launching these from Vandenberg instead of here in Florida? Or is that irrelevant?
I don't think it's relevant, but look, it could be. The Vandenberg Air Force Base, first of all, they have in that area, the area is so cordoned off militarily, right? So nobody would be able to get any kind of video shot from anywhere. You wouldn't be able to even fly a drone.
Well, I mean, here in Florida, I was just over at NASA not too long ago, and it's not. I don't think it's even 10 miles off of an interstate, so anybody could get great footage of things here in Florida. Yeah,
there's something wrong with it, and out here in Arizona, that plume is visible. You can't see the rocket taking off, but once that stage happens and that whatever fuel they're using. There's no question that fuel, even after the rocket is gone, that fuel is still lighting up the sky. So let me just let everybody know, there is no light source within hydrogen. There's no light source.
That's right.
So generating light, and no, it's not reflecting light from the ground. Otherwise, your clouds would look like that, right? They don't. That is not normal fuel.
Are they opening something up, Derek?
That's the other question. What are they doing? What is that fuel? I mean, if you're utilizing different metals within that fuel, if you're doing something, there's some type of fusion, then you very well could be. That could be opening some form of a portal. I can tell you right now that as they're going, maybe that opening of that portal is where that comes from. Is maybe that is the opening of the portal. But whatever they are doing, I'm just letting you know that isn't normal. And as evidence, they're trying to kind of cover it up and distract you, showing that plume in China. I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. Look, it's the same thing.
Derek, is there any chance that it's distortion of time?
It very well could be. You know, I can't say what it is and what it isn't. All I know is that it's not normal. It's not normal. I mean, that's all I could tell you right now. So,
and it's not what they're telling us it is.
It's definitely not what they're telling us it is. And if it is a SpaceX launch, then they're just saying it's a SpaceX launch. Again, I try to look for the truth and the lie at the same time. Just like them saying we found no evidence of explosives at ground zero, it's because they didn't look. So what's the obvious statement? Is it a SpaceX launch? Falcon 9 rocket, right? Well, what is the Falcon 9? First of all, the number 9 itself, it's a Falcon 9 rocket, and the number 9 itself is very much the number of the demiurge. So, and utilized quite often. So it's hard for me to say anything other than that it's highly suspect. So just pay attention.
I just got a text, Derek, and I can't, I can neither, confirm or deny this, but I can just relay the message to you and tell you it comes from a source that I trust. And it says, my brother works for SpaceX. He's one of their high-level engineers. And then this person makes an editorial comment that says, I believe that Elon is inky.
Well, here's the amazing thing. Elon, if I had my whiteboard, I would draw it out for you. But how do you spell Elon?
E-L-O-N.
E-L.
Oh, how about that? E-L.
Yes, L. So the O-N, if you actually look at the language, would be son of.
So son of L.
Yes. So son of Inky.
Son of Inky. So our commenter saying that Elon is inky may be onto something, but he may be son of Inky.
Maybe son of Inky. And the reality of it is, I did a video already on this that said, is Elon son of Satan?
Is Elon son of Satan? Lou Lou stating that Naughty says that Elon is a time traveler. I've not heard him say that.
I wouldn't say that Elon is well, first of all, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. It wouldn't surprise me one bit, but I can tell you right now that when you, has anybody seen Elon's mother?
I haven't. Rob Barrett says argon gas and mercury gas emit a blue light. Can you confirm or deny that, Derek?
Argon gas or mercury gas emit a blue light? Yes, they would emit some light, but not to the extent that it is. Let's just say that's a super light. That you're talking about a light source.
Unusual. That's just not normal. I swear it looks to me like something's being opened, something's being torn, something's escaping through a tear or an opening, and it's lingering, and it takes a long time to dissipate in this reality.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you this right here. This is Elon Musk's mother, okay? Now,
Somebody said she looks like the lady in 101 Dalmatians. She does.
She's Carilla DeVille.
That's really his mother? You're not making that up?
Not making that up. This is his mother.
She is Carilla DeVille.
Yep. Now, Carilla DeVille.
Derek, this is almost... I don't follow this stuff as much as you do. I'm too much in my own world. But I sit here and I look at this and I'm saying to myself, there's no way this is a real person. There's no way this lady is really like this. They are playing a game on us, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't reality. Come on.
It is.
This is Hollywood.
No, this is really reality. Now, here's what's so amazing. There is something, if you haven't looked it up, called technosity, I believe.
Easy for you to say.
It's a strange word, but now here's the whole thing. If you look up Elon Musk's father and you look up what his father did, he was the founder of this church about technology running the world.
Like technosophy.
Yes. So there's much more to this guy. I'm just letting you know. We'll just let that lie there. Let's not make this a show about Elon
Derek,
Musk.
what are the connections between, if any, between Musk and one Donald Trump?
Potentially money, finance. Just think about this. Think about Elon Musk all of a sudden being handed the keys to the entire space program of the United States. Handed the keys. I mean, I can tell you right now, as an entrepreneur, as a person that's gone out there and raised capital with the same people that he's raised capital with a person that knows the fund managers that he knows, the people that he's been working with, from everything from PayPal to all of his companies all the way up. Okay, everything that this guy has done has been crowned golden. I can tell you right now, he isn't that smart. He's not that smart. And if you look at early pictures of him, you can see how they groomed him. Now, I can tell you that there is a grooming of people that they crown in technology. Now, right now, they're trying to destroy him a bit. But I believe it's more of destroying the image to to take you off the scent of who he really is.
Interesting.
The reality, this guy is worshipped. This guy is worshipped. It's crazy.
Derek, when I was at NASA, and I usually try to get off the beaten path and stuff, and I was talking to some guy that I saw walking around kind of in the back, and I started talking to him and having a conversation with him. And how did SpaceX get the keys to the NASA kingdom? How did they just basically throw, like you said, Elon Musk the keys? And this guy told me, and I don't know if this is true or false, but maybe and my numbers are probably a little bit off, but it used to cost NASA, like, I want to say $8 million-ish to get one astronaut to the International Space Station. And the story I was told is Elon Musk came in and said, "Hey, look, I can take 3 to the space station for the same amount of money." And so that was one of the reasons why he got the keys to the kingdom of NASA.
But that's crap, because that's crap. That's the good story, right? But the fact of the matter is, if he can do it for the same amount of money, then they can figure out how to do it. It's about them privatizing it. And so the government isn't involved. Hey, we're not involved. That's a private company. It's the same way that World War II, that we could have companies funding Hitler, right? Funding Hitler and doing the work of the enemy, doing the work of the Archons of the world.
So it's plausible deniability.
Absolutely. Plausible deniability is, hey, what are you talking about? It's a private company. And if they're doing something that is beyond moral character, right? Hey, it's a private company. We don't determine what private companies do. And with a private company, hey, we don't have anything to do with the ownership. It's a private company. Oh, we can't tell you who's on the board. We can't penetrate the corporate veil. Right? We can't disclose to you the secrets of the company. The corporations are how things are held. I mean, look, this country is a corporation.
Absolutely.
Right.
So is Elon Musk just a figurehead? Is he really just that? Is he just a figurehead? You said he was groomed. Does he really know anything? Has he cracked codes, or is he just the guy that's the figurehead, the dancing bear of SpaceX?
Let me put it this way. There always has to be a visionary, right? So let's put it this way. Did Noah build the ark, or did other people build it with Noah, and Noah was given the instructions?
Interesting. And our inside reporter says that they believe that Elon is on the side of the humans, for what it's worth. The person whose brother works for SpaceX.
There are, well, first of all, I have many friends that I don't want to put anybody on blast. I have many friends in the industry, many friends that know his financiers, many friends that have very tight relationships with him and around his family. Technocracy. Sorry, that's the word. Technocracy. Look that up. And I can tell you right now that there is everybody that I know that knows him is highly suspect of him, that there seems to be somebody else working with him. Now, like I said, if Elon is in communication with an Archon, which there's no question that you don't get the keys to NASA and the entire space program without having a relationship with the rulers of the world.
Are you saying he's working for the Archons, Derek Bros?
Of course he is.
Okay.
You don't have that ability. You don't get that ability. He might not even know necessarily he's working for the Archons, but I believe that to be probably just wishful thinking. I believe that he is very much connected with the powers that be. Now,
is
let's
Donald
get to
Trump working for the Archons.
Of course, you cannot be in that office without doing so.
Does he know it?
Of course he does.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible he's working a game of his own, or is he bought in the whole route?
Here's the whole thing. Look, Donald Trump, in the beginning, as I said, talked about, the Federal Reserve, and just recently he bashed the Federal Reserve because they were raising interest rates and everything. But this guy, knowing what he knows about the Federal Reserve, that he spoke about the Federal Reserve beforehand, he said the reserve was a complete sham, which it is. He knows money. He knows the systems of the monetary system. He knows the banking systems. And if he did know that, and he truly wanted to make America great again or do any of those things, believe me, he would be tearing that Federal Reserve out of the ground. And if you look at where it's at in D.C., the building is made to look like the White House. It's on Constitution and I believe Constitution and Freedom Boulevard or some kind of amazing thing like that. Did we have somebody just join?
No, I muted cough. I don't know if I caused a sound when I did that.
Oh, that was odd. So
somebody's asking if you saw Elon on Joe Rogan.
I did. I watched Elon smoking weed on Joe Rogan. Yes.
What'd you think about that whole thing?
I thought that I think everything that Elon is doing right now is orchestrated.
And many people said that I've read, and what little bit of reading and following I do, said that it looked like he was shape shifting during that interview.
I wouldn't say that he was shape shifting. He definitely didn't look too happy.
Okay.
So Joe is a shill, somebody says. So Joe said that Joe is a shill. Joe, are you a shill?
Oh, that's interesting. Wow. So Musk is working for the Archons, you believe, and you would say best case scenario, he's ignorantly working for the Archons, but you're not buying what he's selling.
Definitely not buying what he's selling. I've been around the industry way too long, right? I've been around these financiers. I've been around hedge fund managers. I've been around these people. I know when something smells funny. I know when somebody is crowned. I know when you go in. Look, I've gone to these same people to raise capital for technology that I had that was so far superior to things that were out there. And they said, "Oh, we love it, but we would like you to make it like this." And it would be a reduced, ugly version that served some other pointless portion of the marketplace. And I would go, but this is better, and this is what I'm proposing to you. Oh, no, we'll fund you, and you can run it, but it's got to do this. So they would try to coerce me into making a product that they wanted. Now, many people, when you're looking at millions of dollars and looking for financing, particularly if you've been raising capital for a long time and you've been out there and you're struggling on your own, you need the gig, right? You want the company, you want to be able to be seen, and depending on who it is up on Sand Hill Road or wherever you're raising capital, you want to be in with that crowd, and so you get crowned by them, but you got to do what they want you to do. And so when anybody has a technology or a company, like you got Travis Kalanick out there, who I've testified before Congress with. So I know Travis, he was in the same industry as I was, and he's the founder of Uber, and he's the CEO of Uber. The second that you begin deviating from their scheme, they will remove you, trash you, and tear you to pieces. As long as you stay doing what they want you to do. And this is how things are controlled. This is how the Archons control. It's all through finances. Everything is through money. Let's look at states, state sovereignty. How do you infiltrate states and remove state sovereignty? Ask any state, right? Ask any state what they're compelled to do, what they have to do in order to stay in good favor with the federal government and have their funding from the federal government. They don't want those funds to be removed, right? So they'll do whatever the federal government wants them. They sacrifice state sovereignty as a result of money. Money drives everything.
Absolutely. And it was Jefferson that said a central currency is of greater threat than a standing army.
Of course it is. It takes everything. And this country, people think that it has some form of sovereignty. It doesn't. It is owned. It is a corporation, and that corporation is owned by banks. Period.
Absolutely true. So, Derek, what are these launches that we're seeing in China? What are these launches that we're seeing out there in California? And what are they that they go all the way back into ancient art and historical photographs? I mean, what is going on? What do you think?
Well, I think that what's taking place now is that there is a shift that is happening where during this cosmological point in time that things cannot be hidden. But not only that, during this time, there are entities, there are, I don't want to call them people. See, our language itself makes it difficult for us to explain these things. But there are people, species, that can only come here at a specific time. So we are entering that time. And that is also the time that the war takes place as well, because if you're going to come and you're going to rescue or you're going to do something, you're going to have these entities show up and connect with their earthly counterparts that they have established here. And that's what we're experiencing. We're experiencing these things opening up where we can actually penetrate the magnetosphere. We can come and go as we please, or as they please at specific times. You have to open up the shield around this planet. This has been spoken about in even older NASA videos. These are not secrets. So I believe that we're just at that time, and that's what I mean. That's why all ancient scriptures speak about a cosmological connection of what's taking place. Pay attention to the skies. Pay attention to the stars. What are you seeing? This indicates the time where these things will be revealed. You will see them. They cannot hide themselves anymore.
And it's interesting. I'm thinking of the words of the master, and we read it, and it's almost like a throwaway. And in a way, it kind of is a throwaway. But again, it's truth being shown to us in code. Where he says something to the effect of, you can read the signs of the times. You're able to look at the skies and discern things. And he kind of just moves right past it and goes on and talks about something else. But the discerning mind says, whoa, wait a minute. He just said that we can look at the skies and we can use the skies and we can use heavenly appearances and heavenly events to know the signs of the time. So it's very easy in scriptures when the master's speaking, because he speaks like a master cryptographer so many times, it's easy to miss things like that. But he clearly did say to us, if we slow down and stop for a minute, in the skies, you're going to be able to see signs of the times.
You are. And hey, just for those in the chat room, if you're going to market other channels and other videos in the chat room, I'm going to block you.
That is so rude. I'm glad to hear you say that, Derek. I can't stand that when that happens.
Yeah, it's like, seriously, this is a discussion we're having here. We're not marketing other things. If you have something that you think is interesting we bring into the show, well, then email it to me. But don't use this to market other channels. I'll block you immediately.
Yeah, that's called spam, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask this question, Derek, and I wonder about this, and I get bashed for even bringing it up, but I've been studying a lot of the Hermetic information lately, and talking about the polarity, good and evil, and opposites. Now we are so programmed to think, we're so programmed to think that if there are rulers, if there are archons, that they're all bad, they're all malevolent, they're all against us. In your opinion, is there any possibility that there might be some of these things called archons, or some of these rulers that might be just as upset as we are with the powers that be, and might be leaning towards possibly thinking about considering helping us?
Yes. So, but I wouldn't call them archons. Okay. So
Okay.
if you pay attention to if you pay attention to any of the Andromedan messages, right? So the Andromedians say, okay, so we're good entities, but some of us splintered off and joined the Draconians, and as a result, they know us. They will appear to be us. They'll pretend to be us, but they're not us. So this is where the deception is.
Interesting.
So let me.
Somebody's asked this question a couple of times, Derek. I know what I think, but what do you think? Are the archons tulpa or thought forms?
Are they tulpa or thought forms?
I would say no. They might be thought forms of aeons or higher deities, but they're not human thought forms.
Yeah, they're not human thought forms. The thing is that it's their job to mimic the human. Now when you have people like Paul Hellyer, right, speaking about Paul Hellyer was the head of the Canadian military for a long time and an acting prime minister for a period of time, and he came out saying, when you go to the Pentagon, you're passing people that you think are humans. They're not.
Wow.
Right? They are not humans. That there are species that can look like humans. So there are, most definitely, we just take it that, they kind of look like us, they same color eyes or same shape of face, but they're not. And so, but I do believe that there is power within them to transform people as well. And I'm going to use let me share the screen here. I'm going to go to this scene here. This is how archons, you find their way into your life. And it has something to do with being so involved in the world, that when you become so involved in something, that we are powerful in and of ourselves. And so they must use us to transform ourselves. We have to be willing, and they will transform us into that archon. And I'll use this as an example.
Interesting. So we have to be willing.
Yes.
You. Yes, me. Me too.
So that right there, to me, is the perfect example of what happens. That we get transformed in very much this same way. That this is where I say that you're either co-creating on behalf of the enemy or you're co-creating on behalf of the Father. That once it becomes about you, once you accept it, that you want all of these things, this is the me factor, right? When everybody is so concerned about themselves, this is the whole point of the Master. This is the whole point of Christ.
Wow, Derek, you just said a mouthful.
To die to yourself, that when you are so important that you give way to all of these things, you become the archon. You become an operative of them. You become a voice of them. In the same way that you become part of the body of Christ, you become part of a body of the demiurge.
So, Derek, can we say that if you allow yourself to get to the place where it's all about you and you're all concerned about your power and your way and you, that you are on your way to becoming part of the body of the archons?
You are voluntarily doing it, yes. And
you're signing up.
You're signing up for it, and you will be used by them in the most subtle of ways at first. And then as you grow, you get offered things. Believe me, I understand this, folks, that when you get offered and you get put in positions that says, hey, we can do this. We can put you in charge of this company. Just do what we want you to do. You're voluntarily sacrificing your ideas, your own inventions even. And I was proposed those very things, to sacrifice my own thought about something, that I had to change the way I think in order to receive that funding. And for me, I had, I had a very common, the one thing about investors and people that have known me through my past is that I had a very typical response to somebody like that. And it was typically FO, right? Yeah. I was not a cooperative factor. Everything I've ever done was disruptive.
Derek, are there, and I don't really know how to say this other than to just say what's on my mind. Are there low-level people that are me, that get used, that aren't of sufficient quality, whatever that quality may be, to be lifted up and offered more and more? And are they used simply as tools to impede, distract, or even bring down people that could be of danger to the Archonic agenda?
Yes. So let me just ask you the question back to make sure I'm understanding. Are there people that are designed or brought in to impede the agenda?
No. Okay. There's people that, that were just like you just showed with Agent Smith, me kind of people. And you discussed the me kind of people opening themselves up to Archons. And if you're of sufficient quality and you have things that they can use, they will offer you more and lift you up. What about the people that are me that don't have any advanced qualities, intellectual, physical, whatever, that can't really be lifted up and used in a higher way, but yet they still have me themselves so much that they're controlled by Archons? Can those people be used to impede the progress, to distract, and even to take down other people that the Archons identify as dangerous to their agenda?
Yes, most of those people that don't have those qualities or those pieces end up becoming used by the Archons by going to Washington, D.C. and becoming like Joe Biden. All right. So completely useless, absolutely no skills, no savvy whatsoever, no invention, no creative or original thought on their own. They're very easy to control. Washington, D.C., that's why Washington, D.C. is called Hollywood for ugly people, right? That the politics are the same, the egos are the same, but they're all useless and have no creative ability whatsoever. So it is the inverse of Hollywood, but the same leaders.
Interesting. And Derek, I discovered something today when I was looking through and kind of studying up for this show. It's very interesting that the Gnostics had this word called hebdomad, and the hebdomad was basically a bureaucracy of the Archons. And interestingly enough, the Archons are all, at least in this way of thought, affiliated with the planets: Yaldabaoth, Saturn; Eal, Jupiter; Sabaoth, Mars; Astaphanos, Venus; Adonalos, the Sun; Eleos, Mercury; Horeos, the Moon. I find that very interesting.
Yes, they relate themselves based on the energy. So everything has an energy that is everything. Put it this way: every planet in our system right now has an energy that plays a role here on Earth. Right. This is what astrology is all about.
Right.
So that it has an energy, that you're born during a certain time, you're more receptive to that certain vibration. All of those things work together to keep this place working. Now, this place, when I say this place, I'm not talking about that as a term of endearment. I'm talking about that as a prison.
Right.
That this place is designed. Everything in this physical form is a copy of what is invisible. Okay, so the real earth, the new earth, and the new Jerusalem and the new heavens is the real one. That when this entire plateau, when this entire construct, this is a construct, people. We are living within a construct that is mathematical. That's why you can look at it. It is mathematic precision. And people go, oh, well, I'm so enlightened. The math is beautiful. The math isn't beautiful, folks. This is, if as a programmer, I can tell you right now that the math of this place is a construct. You're looking at and people say, oh, well, the mountains are beautiful. Aren't those beautiful of God's? That's a copy. Imagine how gorgeous they actually are.
Wow, that's great stuff.
Right?
Derek,
So,
is it possible to extrapolate and say that the planets are Archons?
the planets probably are. If they are run by Archons, right? If they are actually, we've got to think bigger. We cannot think about the ancients and reduce them to less advanced people. We have to understand that the ancients are so superior, so far more advanced than we can comprehend. You cannot understand. You're talking about literally tens of thousands of years ago, people that are creating creatures that are intelligent biologically, right? That they are creating smart skin, essentially. What you're wearing today, this physical body is essentially AI from the past.
Wow.
We're locked in, right? We think about us, oh, well, look at us. We've got these AI robots that we're building. Sophia, the AI robot. That isn't squat. Look at us. This is badass technology. Okay? This is badass stuff. Somebody was hyper intelligent when they go, oh, and this is where you have these battles. They say, well, it's either the creation story, creationism, right? Intelligent design. You're damn right it's intelligent design. This is why I say you can't reduce the enemy down to some little red man with a pointy tail and a pitchfork. The enemy is superior, far superior than you imagine. If you reduce him down to that little red man, you are never going to understand the forces that you're up against here. We are up against forces here that stagger the imagination.
So, Derek, what better way to distract an AI creation than to let them think that they're creating AI and let that create fear of AI?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Ay.
This is how good the deception is. And this is the whole point. This is what made Christ so amazing, is that Christ comes in. He knew all of this stuff. Remember, as I was talking to Malia today, I said, everybody forgets that according to the scriptures, he spent a whole lot of time in Egypt, right? Christ spent a whole lot of time in Egypt before he came back. So when exactly did he come back? And what was he doing while he was in Egypt? What was he learning? Most likely the same things that Moses learned, which is why he could transfigure to Moses and understand maybe that's why he was there in the first place. Maybe he was speaking with both spirits. Keep in mind that there is no way for you to be enlightened in this world without being enlightened first by the enemy. The enemy is going to wake you up.
Wow.
That's his gig, right? He's going to, that's the whole story of Job, right? It's going to be the enemy coming to wipe you out. The enemy's going to come to, and he's going to say, hey, it's time. Come and serve me. Because he knows.
By saying Christ is a time traveler.
No question about that.
Yeah.
No question about that. There is no question. That's why he couldn't wait to get out of Dodge. He was like, I'm out of here, folks. And by the way, I'm going to leave you. In fact, Malia and I were talking about this today. I just love our conversations. Is that that he left no excuses. He left no excuses for any of the religion. He said, you need a sacrifice, you need a dead body. All right, I'll lay down my life. I'll do that too. You have no excuse to not listen to me. You have no excuse, none whatsoever. Every element within the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the Romans, he covered all of them. And he said, you have no excuse to not hear this. You have no excuse to not understand the things that I'm bringing you. And he was bringing to bear the exact secrets that we are disclosing today. These secrets are not covered by the Father. These secrets are covered by the world and the Archons. They block these things. You're enslaved here. You were stolen. People ask, why would God allow this to happen? God didn't allow this to happen. You have to understand, you came here voluntarily at some point. Voluntarily. At some point, you volunteered to come, whether you're here voluntarily on a rescue mission or you came here voluntarily as the fallen. They convinced you to come. Now, the amazing thing is people say, oh, we have free will. The will that you had was to come here in the first place. You can't be as powerful as we are. If you are a spark of the divine, then who's the divine to stop you from doing something voluntarily? The difference is, if you're going to return to the divine, you're certainly not going to return to the divine with the stink of the demiurge on you. You're going to be refined, and you're going to be refined extremely well before you're going to get the return. You've got to deny this place, deny the demiurge, deny Yaldabaoth, deny the enemy entirely before you're ever going to return back home. You're not going there with this stink on you.
But Derek, that means that you're also going to have to deny yourself.
It is self, because you're going to deny a portion of yourself, the portion of yourself that thinks that this place is important, that thinks that that man next to you and that their opinion is important, that thinks that your family's opinion of you is important. This is precisely why Christ's words were, if you want to be my disciple, first must hate your family, hate all of them, leave them.
Self-esteem, self-respect. Wow.
And
you have a choice.
Yes, and the thing about hating your family, people think, well, it wasn't a commandment. He was explaining to you that you would go through this process. I've explained this many times, is that the path to Christ is the way that he spoke. Listen to this very clearly, folks. This helps you understand his words. That if I were to give you directions to the store down the street, and I said, you're going to go up 1 mile, you're going to make a left, and then you're going to break your leg. And you'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm going to break my leg. Well, when you go up 1 mile, right? You're going to make a left, and there's going to be a place in the ground that you can't see, and you're going to fall in that ditch, and you're going to break your leg. It's an indicator that you're on the right path. It's not a commandment. I'm not telling you to go break your leg on the way to the store. I'm telling you that that's what's going to happen, right? That it is a pattern. And this pattern is, if you're going to break, look, the amazing part about Christ is this, is that his words, if he understood the matrix and the construct, he's explaining to you in a way that you can understand the mathematical equation as to how to escape it, that there is a process how to escape this construct and how to survive this construct, which is why everything he spoke about was through him. He was the example. It's not through him, not worship him, not put him on a pedestal. Through me as the example, you will do these things. Through me, you must go through me. I'm the only example that you have. I'm the only evidence that you have. And I am going to provide you the evidence all the way to my physical death, because I'm going to lay it down, because that's what the demiurge is going to require. That's what the Archons are going to require. They are going to kill me, and I'm going to make them do it. Keep this in mind. He made them do it. He knew their patterns so well. He knew the programming so well that that's why he could predict it. They're going to come. And that's why he was also gauging as to when he said, who do you say I am? But more importantly, who do they say I am? So he's gauging timing of himself in this. So he knew that he had a certain amount of time to say that what he had. He knew that the programming mechanism, the minute that he started speaking these things and had that impact, that the demiurge would react like a program releasing the antivirus. He knew the exact timing of everything. Very much a time traveler.
And I was just thinking, Derek, whether you believe in the message of the Christ, whether you call yourself a Christian, whether you call yourself an atheist, whatever you call yourself, does each one of us, Derek, or is this back to my old Christian programming, does each one of us sooner or later in some way have to answer that question, who do you say that I am?
Who do you say that I am? Are we still trying to answer that question, is what you're saying?
Do all of us have to, regardless of our own personal beliefs, do all of us have to answer at some point who we think the Christ is, the Christ was? Do we all have to decide what we think about that?
Yes, because the reality is what he was saying, who do you say I am? And the answer is unique, that you will be given a stone with a name that nobody knows but yourself, that the return will be, he will have a name no one knows but himself. And the reality of that is this, is number one, not taking that name in vain, vain meaning for yourself, that it's not something that you take possession of, that only you are it. When I have people that'll email me, I have probably, I got to tell you, Jeff, I've had probably 150 Moseses. I've had 40 or 50 John the Baptists. I've had thousands of the two people claiming to be the two, the witnesses. And everybody, again, that's what taking the name in vain is.
Derek, I have a friend who is a psychiatrist, and he says every single facility for the mentally insane has at least one Jesus in it. Every single one of them.
Oh, of course. And I've had probably, I would say, 150 to 250 Jesuses.
I got an email just today asking me if I'd like to interview Jesus live on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, I mean, hey, bring him. The reality is, so when he says, who do you say?
Or it might have been Jesus. I'm not sure. I didn't check.
When children are tortured by Luciferian organizations, right? And I've said this many times, when they're tortured in order to completely destroy their world, to create the adrenochrome that they need during torture. So when that takes place, you know what they do? They take those children and they tell them to call out to Jesus. Call out to Jesus. He'll rescue you. And when he doesn't show up, the fear is at its highest level, right? The answer is when they say, call out to Jesus, the child's appropriate answer should be, I am he.
Ooh, that's powerful. And Lou, and then it might be a nice time for a little bit of levity. Lou Machado says that her cousin's name is Jesus, probably Jesus.
Yes, probably Jesus. So,
let me ask you a question, Derek, that just came to my mind when you were talking about that. The horrific practice of, causing kids to call out to Jesus and have him not showing up. And a day doesn't go by where I don't get an email that says, well, if you don't think that, you talk about plastic Jesus, and then why do demons run at the name of Jesus if it's not a real name?
Well, I'm going to tell you what Jesus said about that, right? So the very words of Jesus, when they said, but Lord, he said, many will come to me saying, Lord, Lord, didn't we cast out demons in your name? And he said, I never knew you. So here's the reality of it. If you are advanced, like I say, the enemy is advanced, and you know that you're creating this false understanding. Look, the Antichrist today is the image of Jesus today. That is the Antichrist. The Antichrist is what everybody believes Jesus is today. So that has become the Antichrist, because just like he warned, Jeff, he said, if they say that I'm over there, or I'm over there, or I'm in the mountain, or I'm in the wilderness, don't go. I'm not there. It's not me. That is the whole point. They're saying Jesus is over here. Come to this church and accept him. When the reality is he's already here. There isn't any place you can go. Look, Christ is not in the pews of a church. That is not the temple. There is no temple anywhere that equates to Father and Christ. That relationship of Father and Christ is what he introduced. That's what you have to have. That relationship begins right here. There is no place you can go to find it. I don't care what you're going to do. And the hypnotic nature of the churches today, and to convince people that there's Christ, they will say, oh, they'll cast out demons in your name. Of course the demons will flee to create the illusion. What do you think?
Absolutely perfect.
Hollywood does this, right? What do you think that they wouldn't? Of course they do. The illusion's there. When you watch TV, you watch these people being touched on the head, smacked on the head, and flopping around on the stage like they're completely possessed, and they call it they're filled with the Holy Spirit. They're slain in the Holy Spirit. Find one place in Scripture where it says that actually happens on behalf of the Father. Find
Derek,
one place.
I did that for 20 years, right?
I know, Jeff, and I would have smacked you silly then too.
But I anointed him with the sweat of my brow. It was just boom.
I know.
But Derek, do you understand that Matthew 24, the master said, people will say to you, go see him over here. Go see him over there. He's here. He's there. He's at First Baptist. He's at Second Assembly. He's at Church on the Way. He's here. He's there. And what did he say? He said, don't go. Don't go after them. But yet here we are. Oh, Jesus is at our church. Jesus is our church. The Spirit's moving in our church. The Spirit's moving here. The Spirit's moving over there. Don't you see that you're doing exactly what he said don't do?
You know, and Jeff, you know what's so remarkable about this is that people that go to church and find Christ in the way that you know, then they go in there, accept it. They go back and they're learning these things. Nothing is truly revealed to them except they feel this peace because something new is in them. But I can tell you right now, the amount of emails that I get, the amount of transfiguration that people have had from comments and things that I get, it's unbelievable for me to talk to people that more has been accomplished on this channel than I've ever seen at any church. People's lives are altered irrevocably. Beautiful, unbelievable transitions. And here's the what makes me understand that it's true and that it's authentic is because the wisdom and the knowledge that they gain, not from me, but from the Spirit that arrives within them, that completely transforms them. They speak the same things. There's a guy living here right next door to me right now. His name is Matthew. His understanding of the things that I speak of is just like I speak of. I didn't have to teach him anything. He speaks these things, and in all circumstances, he knows the answer. And this is the whole point. This is why I said my goal would be to have nobody listening. That remember that Christ had 5,000 followers, then 4,000 followers, then 3,000, then 12, and then 4 at the cross, right? That they established the Spirit in themselves. The answers are automatically given to you. The reason why they're automatically given to you is because they're already written on you. You already have these things. You existed before the foundation of this world. You existed before all of this was made. Your memory of who you are was removed. So when you die to yourself and the archonic aspects of this world and the demiurge that fights tooth and nail, that is established within this flesh, that keeps you alive in this flesh, when you die to that and you go, you know what? I've superseded death. Death, where is your sting? I don't care whether you kill me tomorrow. Once you die to the true fear of death, and I mean true fear of death, right? Die to that. Who cares? Kill me right now. I don't care. I have zero fear of it. When you die to that fear of death, there is no power that the Archons can have over you. It's gone. It's removed.
You know, we're not really here to teach anybody anything, Derek. We're just here to remind people of stuff they already know.
I'm just simply stating things that is already in you. And people go, I know that's true. You know it's true because it's also your truth. It's not mine. It's ours. We own this truth, all of us together. And this is why you can't take the name in vain. It isn't mine to have. People could say, I can see Christ in you. Yes, and I can see Christ in you. Wake it up.
Yeah.
Wake up, Christ.
And,
come alive.
Somebody just rolled by with the name Johnny Ringo, and that reminds me of Doc Holliday. And this just hit me, and I've thought a lot about Doc Holliday. I love Doc Holliday. Do you know why, Derek, Doc Holliday was the greatest gunfighter in all of the Wild West?
I don't.
Think about it. The reason why, Derek, that Doc Holliday was the greatest gunfighter in the whole West was because he had tuberculosis. He was gonna die and he knew it. He was not afraid of death at all.
Could care less.
Couldn't care less. That's what made Doc Holliday a huckleberry. That's what made Doc Holliday Daisy.
And here I am in Prescott, Arizona, where Doc Holliday and his Doc Holliday's wife actually died up here in the old folks home, and there's memorabilia all over. This was his hometown. So
that's why Doc Holliday was the greatest gunfighter in the West. And if you want to be the greatest gunfighter in your town, then you're already dying. You've got tuberculosis. You've got the virus. You're going to die.
Yes. And so you're not even calculating whether you're going to die or not. You're just, and he probably was just as surprised. And the funny thing is that.
So just look in the mirror and tell everything that is against you, say when.
And every movie has this element in it. If you watch a great movie, The Last Samurai, Tom Cruise, right?
Oh, that was a great movie.
It's a great movie. So The Last Samurai, you watch that movie. What do the greatest warriors in the whole thing all have in common?
They're not afraid to die.
Not even the slightest, right?
Nope.
The entire samurai's training is about dying eloquently, right? The only thing they fear is dying without honor, right? That's it.
Oblivion, another Tom Cruise movie. The penultimate scene where Morgan Freeman and Tom Cruise smuggle themselves into the big ship that's sucking all the earth dry. Tom Cruise says to Morgan Freeman, or he says to the head alien, I don't know, whatever. Tom Cruise says, everybody dies, but not everybody dies well.
Yes. So I want to die well, right?
Yep.
I could
But
care
he didn't
less.
care. He was, I'm going to die.
Yep.
And folks, if you're listening to us, I can guarantee you one thing. You're going to die. And in fact, you're dying already. Are you going to die well?
But here's the good news. Here's the good news. You're going to die. This physical body dies, right? Guaranteed. Everything in this construct dies. It is a death construct, people.
Yep.
It is a death construct. Everything here is about evidence that you're going to die and to fear it, right? The amount of fear that people have, everything that they have, getting on a flight. Oh, I'm terrified to get on a plane. Why? Because I might die. Regardless of the facts that planes don't just fall out of the sky. It's actually quite hard to once you understand the dynamics of flight, it's quite difficult to get a plane out of the sky. It's much easier to crash your car, roll it, and kill yourself. And the odds are you're going to die. The odds are far greater that you're going to die on the way to the airport than you're going to die in a plane.
That's true.
Very, very, very true. But yet we have that fear. So this is a death construct. When you can die to this death construct, an entirely new world opens up to you. When you no longer fear that and you want to die well because you understand, more importantly, that you who you really are, never dies. Okay, and that's the important part. Look, Einstein proved this. Einstein showed this. Quantum physics proves this today. That your consciousness is energy, and energy is neither created nor destroyed. It is only transferred. So your energy, your consciousness continues on infinitely. Your consciousness existed before. That's why Christ said, I am before the foundation of the world. I was before the foundation of the world. Before Abraham was I am, right? Yeah. Before Abraham was all of us. I was here before Abraham. So are you, Jeff. So is everybody in this chat room. So the reality of it is, when you die, what does actually impact you is your consciousness, which is why you will refuse and you will not go and return to source. You will come back to this place and you will repeat this until you've learned to make your conscience clear.
Catherine, I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. Learn a real martial art. Sorry about that.
I did 16 years of traditional Japanese Shotoshinkai.
And this is something that just hit me, Derek, a big revelation. You know, you think that once you're not afraid to die anymore, that you've defeated all your fears. Not necessarily so, because I was at the place a year ago where I was ready. I mean, I no longer fear death, but sometimes there's things that you fear that aren't death. And if you ask the father and mother to bring you to higher heights, sometimes you'll have to go through things that you fear, that you may fear even more than death. And I've been taken through some things that, I thought I would fear it'd be horrible to be the end. But once you go through them, you come out on the other side. I'm not afraid of death. And now, I'm not afraid of that either. I can survive that. The thing that I feared worst has come upon me. And here I am. Mike, if you don't like the show, go listen to something else.
Mike didn't like the show?
Oh, he just had a comment.
Jeff's all over this chat room.
Oh, sorry, Derek. It's your channel. I forgot.
No.
Mike, I take it back.
Hey, no. Mike, hey, listen to Jeff. You don't like the show? There's only 1,273 of you here, so.
Right. But there's things that we can fear worse than death, Derek. And Father and mother will take us through those things to show us, oh, you know what? You're not afraid of death. You don't have to worry about that either.
Yeah, it's funny. My daughter said that it's that you bring that up because my daughters are coming to visit me this week. I haven't seen them in quite some time, and I'm very, very excited. But my daughter is scared of flying, and primarily because her mother was scared of flying. So we teach these things to our kids.
Absolutely.
And I've traveled all over. I've been flying. I've fly myself.
Parents. Think about that, parents.
We teach our kids the fears that we have. And
I did a lot of bad things to my kids, Derek, but I have not passed any fears on them. I can guarantee you that.
Well, but my daughter said what you were talking about. She doesn't fear death, but she fears the idea of knowing the plane's going to do that. The time before, she's like, that time just scares the crap out of me, right? And
so it's not the descent it's not the sudden stop at the bottom that bothers her. It's the way down.
It's on the way down. And I'm like, if you don't really care about what happens at the bottom, then put your hands in the air like you're on a roller coaster. Go woohoo!
Wouldn't that just freak out the people that are with you?
Totally. I would just turn to the next guy with me and say, hey, you got to smoke?
Yeah. Doesn't matter now. Light them up. Smoke them if you got them.
Yeah. Do you remember Dennis Leary had a skit? It was a hysterical skit, a little bit of comical break here. He said, because Dennis Leary, if you've ever watched his show, he does nothing but smoke during his skits. And it was a skit called No Cure for Cancer. And he's chain smoking through the whole thing. And as he's chain smoking, he says, you people wanted restaurants. You got the whole restaurant. Then you wanted the plane. And now you got the whole damn plane. But trust me, the very first thing you're going to hear as soon as something goes wrong in that plane is, light them up, folks, because we're going down.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Interesting stuff. So the whole thing that we started off with, Derek, with these launches, they're covering something up. Do you have any speculations on what it is, or are we everybody just gonna smoke them if they got them and make their own decisions?
No, I think, look, I mean, rather than to speculate on those things, I would just say, pay attention to them. In the same way, Jeff, that when we talk about things, talk about putting a truth on the shelf, right? Not having to make a decision. There is no need for us to make a decision about it right now. It's about paying attention to the details. It says stay vigilant, right? So pay attention to those things. That when things and what that does is it allows you to stay in the truth. It allows you to stay outside of the world. When you start recognizing, that something is odd about that, and something is odd and different about that. When you recognize that you're not being shown these things, all it does is helps you prepare. And and more will be revealed.
Something's going on, and it's not what they're telling us.
No question about it, because the Archons rule this world. So who are the Archons? I can tell you right now that the people in power join the Archons. There is no such thing, folks. When I tell you to stop paying attention to politics, stop picking a side. Here's the reality of it. Let me just explain to you how useful politics is in this world right now, particularly in this country. If everybody secretly agreed to not vote, right? If everybody secretly agreed to not vote, you would watch the news and they would still have the exit polls and they would still have the votes and somebody would still be elected and they would still have roughly the same amount of votes that were there, even if nobody voted. Okay, now what does that tell you?
You're saying the whole thing is just one big charade. If none of us, if we didn't tell anybody, if we all knew, but they didn't know, and none of us voted, they would go on as if everybody voted.
As if everybody voted. The illusion of it. And look, Anons proved this. During the first election of Obama, that first election, Anons went in and hacked Ohio and Florida's systems. And the votes that were told and the votes that were actually in the systems were entirely different. Okay? So
is that the first time I've heard that, Derek?
Because if ABC News, NBC, if ABC, NBC, and CBS aren't saying it, then it didn't happen, Jeff.
Yeah, but how come Matt Drudge and Alex Jones and George Norrie aren't saying it?
Because they get bought too. They become operatives too. I've known Matt Drudge a long time. I helped Andrew Breitbart build Breitbart.com. I know this. I've been around this industry for a long time. I've watched Matt Drudge. Look, when I don't know whether you remember this, but when in the Nevada desert, when they were taking out that farmer, and they had created a little thing where you could protest in this cage.
Oh, that's right.
And militia were coming from all over the country. We almost had a massive outbreak of civil war where you actually can find pictures of snipers with their scope on federal agents from overpasses. Okay. We're talking thousands of people on horses. We're talking tens of thousands of militia members descending upon the desert in Nevada. Matt Drudge put that up and immediately was told by the feds to take it down. CBS had a news article about it, was told to take it down. The feds went and scrubbed every single news site. Within 5 minutes, every single news site was scraped of every single one of these pieces. And I personally wrote Matt Drudge and said, "What the hell?" And he said, "Sorry, not worth giving my life over." And I got one word for that, but I won't use it here.
Wow. What would have happened, Derek, if somebody would have squeezed off a shot and then everybody would have squeezed off the shots? What would have happened?
You still would have never heard about the war.
Really? Wow. You know, I'm shocked. I'm sitting here in shock thinking, wow, if we really didn't vote, they would pull it off anyway. And then I'm thinking to myself, why would they have put Trump in?
There is a time when every single president goes to the Bilderberg building that everybody's seen the president get his.
Hello, Heidi.
Everybody has seen every president get their debriefing, right? Where they get their day where they go into that private meeting in the Bilderberg building and they're informed about everything. And they usually come out looking like a deer in the headlights, like they just were revealed things. There is a time when they are told point blank exactly what is going on. And they know who they work for. Look, they work for the banks, period. This is why the Secret Service works for the Treasury Department, and the Treasury Department protects the president, because they either protect the president or they take him out if necessary, if he gets out of line. What a greater organization to have than that, right? The people that you have fix the president in any way, shape, or form. If he's on your side, well, then you protect him. If he leaps off of your side, well, then you take him out.
Wow, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff.
So Best Damn Podcast says, they say cowardice is the greatest sin because it gives place to all the rest. It is. It does. And where does cowardice come from? Fear of death, right?
It does.
Comes from fear of death. So when you don't fear death, you can't be a coward. You never will be. So, wow, great room here. 1,309, Jeff. That's
hello, Ashley Gypsy.
So good to see a bunch of new faces here. Mama 420, good to see you. Yes, crazy people. Isabel Sanchez, good to see you, Isabel. Guitar Man. Some great new names here in the chat room.
I'm hearing Elvis in my mind.
Yeah, Elvis in my mind. So,
Guitar Man.
So Jeff, so when you think about who are Archons, somebody had mentioned earlier in the chat room, Technocracy was in 1933. 1933 was founded in 1933 by Elon Musk's father, and I believe that Dana Ashley is going to be doing an expose on this. So I don't want to cover a whole bunch of Dana's stuff that we've discussed. I'm not sure when she's going to be coming out with that, but she's a very thorough investigator. And when she does, I'm sure it's going to be good. So pay attention to that. If you haven't subscribed to Dana Ashley's channel, you should. She doesn't. She's not on every single day like Jeff and I. But when she does put together a video, she's put some serious time into it. So look for that, and pay close attention to everything else that is taking place with Elon Musk right now. Because, like I said, I believe that they are covering up who Elon is by making you think that he is now kind of out of favor, so to speak. And that has only come because of late, over the last 6 months, he's been exposed by a lot of channels and a lot of people. And there are, just like you were saying, there are people that work around him that believe that he's connected to something that isn't right. So, and just the mere fact that his mom looks like Cruella de Vil, I'm sorry, but that's not a coincidence.
It's really not. It's really not. Just to give a couple of personal shout outs, Derek, on the 23rd, I believe it is, on the Last Stand, the show I do with Jay Campbell, we're actually going to be, I'm checking the date, we're going to be interviewing, it's the 22nd, actually, a week from tomorrow. We're going to be interviewing Bob Sanders, who's the spokesperson for the Great White Brotherhood. Whatever you think about them, you might find that interesting. And on the 24th, I'll be on Vinny Eastwood's program, and I'm going to be in what was supposed to be a debate, but I think we're a lot more on the same page than on different pages. I'll be with Joseph Atwell, the author of Caesar's Messiah, and we'll be talking about my book, Apostle Paul Antichrist, his book, Caesar's Messiah, and talking about all things Paul and all things New Testament and all things Jesus Christ, Messiah, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, that will be definitely something to watch, Jeff. I'll be paying close attention to that. And I'm going to be there's somebody that I'm not going to say. I'll just give you a heads up. There is somebody that I've been communicating with, and I'm hoping to bring them on the show. I can promise you that everybody will know who it is. He is a celebrity, and quite well-known celebrity. So I'm hoping to bring him on the show very soon to talk about a little bit about where he's at today, what he's seen, and what he knows about me. So
I hope to see him. I really do. And Derek, are we gonna all be in Arizona in November? How's that looking?
That's looking good. And I'm going to have to replace the donation. It says the pool here. Let me just check. The donation pool. Yep. Hold on 1 second. Link is bad in the description, so I will fix that. But the donations, I haven't mentioned it a lot, right? But obviously, Jeff, we have to be able to afford to have you come out. Steve from WSO, Naughty Beaver, if he's going to attend, and Rex Bear, and would love to have Rex out. I think that it's going to be truly a remarkable time. But I haven't mentioned it much, but let me just put this here in the description. Fix this in the description.
Rex is right there in your neck of the woods. Basically, I think he's in southeastern Colorado.
Yes, he is. He's hold on, let me get this.
Unica's light doesn't have much of a life. They just said that Jeff Darty is their favorite celebrity. Oh my.
Okay, so I've fixed.
Yeah, I wish it was a girl at least. No offense, Unicus.
So let me just make sure that I was able to fix this. So in order for us to be able to fly everybody out, obviously, well, something's weird about that. That's not showing up again either. Let me see. Let me copy this. My goodness. Sorry, folks. Now, but in order for us to get everybody out and to have the equipment, and more importantly, the satellite link up, because we'll have to have a data satellite, which isn't difficult to get, right? It's not difficult, but it will cost us money to have something portable and generators and things to be able to run it. But it is looking good. We will be together one way or the other. I can promise you that Jeff and I will definitely be together. I'll pay for Jeff personally if I have to. But I
will be there. I promise you, by hook or by crook.
Okay, so it looks like yes, it looks like I fixed the witness in the desert link on PayPal in the description box. Just hit refresh on your browser, and the link will be fresh and new. We're looking at raising, in order to get everybody out, I figure it's probably going to be about $25,000 at a minimum. Now, this would be a week in the desert, and everybody is planning on coming out. Now, let me just explain what if you're going to come out, what you can expect. You can expect it to be cold. You can expect that you need to bring your own food, your own tent. We will have, obviously, a campfire at night. We will have studies and teachings, and we will videotape everything that we possibly can, and we will broadcast everything that we possibly can live at all times, including ventures into the desert, into the mountains, into the caves, different adventures that we will have. Each little group would go into different caves and have somebody to carry a camera. So we are looking for people, and I've gotten hundreds and hundreds of emails from people willing to volunteer, be cameramen, follow groups around. Like, I'm going to send Jeff by himself into the most terrifying cave in Hopi land, right? The one that the Hopis warn us all about, that's snakes and everything. No, I'm not going to do that to Jeff.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah, I'll be your Huckleberry. And what we find, I truly believe that we're going to see something significant. I can't explain what, but there is something that is taking place out there. This is a time, the Hopi legends are real. They are very aware of these closing of ages. And I believe this land to be, obviously, the Grand Canyon being a plasma strike itself, being created in a very short period of time. And the mere fact that there is ancient Hebrew in these caves is quite telling.
Oh, absolutely.
So we've gone an hour and a half. I'm trying to keep the shows under an hour and a half, but we've gone an hour and a half. So just giving everybody that update. Like I said, the donation link is available.
It's a wonderful world we live in, Derek. People in the chat room, people on text, all this communication. I mean, sure, there's some bad parts to it, but there's some positive parts to it as well.
Well, look, I mean, we wouldn't be able to. The fact is that we can reach more people. Look, we've got 1,264 people in the chat room right now. Mm-hmm. We couldn't reach this many people on a daily basis. You couldn't get people to come to your church. You couldn't get 1,200 people to come to your church daily, right?
You know, Derek, people will think this is blasphemy, but Derek Brose and Jeffrey Daugherty have preached to far more people than Jesus Christ ever did.
Far more. He said we would do greater works than he did, right? Yeah. So greater works than he did. Now, I think there were quite a few people that hated him. I think that there are more people that hate us than they hated him. So I think.
Well, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah. For every 10 that like us, we have 100 that hate us.
Derek, I'm sure you're just like me. Every single day, literally, before I have my first cup of coffee, I've been called Antichrist. I've been called lunatic, and I've been called other things I can't mention on a family show. And, you know, it used to bug me because I don't like for people not to like me. I really don't. It used to bother me if people didn't like me. But now it just rolls like water off a duck's back. It's just no big deal anymore.
Well, because their opinion can't matter. I mean, that is the Vesica Pisces system. That is the construct. It's the construct to try to force you. Look, when nobody likes to be disliked. But the whole point
I shouldn't care about it, but it still does bother me a little bit.
You know, it used to bother me, but after spending some time behind bars, there were a whole lot of people that didn't like me. If it bothered me, I wouldn't. I'd have never left the cell. But that's what was required. It was required for me to, But and the thing is I always try to. It's not that I talk to somebody to try to get them to like me. The thing is that if people don't like me, it was amazing. I watched this one video, this hate video on me. He was like, don't you just want to punch Derek Brose? Anybody else want to punch Derek Brose in the face? And he doesn't like how I use my hands when I talk, or something's wrong and right, or I point to my head, some ridiculous things. I mean, this guy's a complete joker. The amazing thing is these people talk, through videos, and it's like, I would have a conversation with that guy and go, dude, why you got such an issue? It's obvious. And it's obvious by the things that people bring up is that they become just jealous because you're out here having this conversation. You have enough tenacity within you to do this. It's not an ego trip. It's not an arrogance trip. It's that you sacrifice all of that to come.
There was a time where it might have been that time is not now, but there was a time where that it was there. When I was a preacher, oh, good goodness. I mean, I was so horribly arrogant, Derek. You wouldn't believe it. You probably would. I mean, what kind of a guy wipes the sweat off of his forehead and anoints people with it in prayer lines? This guy.
But Jeff, see, that's where humility comes from. And the mere fact that you can even reflect back on that. I was talking to Malia.
And the weird thing is, Derek, I did that to thousands and thousands, probably tens of thousands of people, and not one of them ever said, "You're not wiping your sweat on me, dude." They all just stood there and took it. Oh my goodness, people are crazy.
I wouldn't have taken that. But, I was talking to Malia, because Malia didn't know me before, right? So
Malia and I had to talk about that one. She's like, "Oh, gross."
Yeah. But the thing is like, you can talk about that from a humility standpoint. When people go, "Oh, Derek, we're going to expose you." I'm like, I've told everybody what it is. I've told you everything that I've done nasty. That's what, when you do reach when you are humbled by Christ, when you are humbled by that, when you recognize how insignificant
Lou says gross.
and how beautiful and how significant you are, when you fully understand both sides of that there isn't anything, I can't be arrogant about anything anymore.
It's impossible to expose me, Derek. It's impossible to expose you. It is literally impossible to expose me.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I've already done it.
Yeah, what are you talking about? I've told everybody what, and it's, I'm going to tell you this, Jeff, this is remarkable. People have said on videos, "Oh, Derek lies. He never went to prison. I'm like, really? Let me just help you out here. Just put things to bed. First of all, who lies about going to prison, right? Who lies about that? But I'm just going to show you just as proof.
Are you going to show us that you went? Oh, nice. Boy, that's a good one. I've seen that before.
I keep it just for people that accuse me of lying about being in prison. And if anybody wants to know what I went to prison for, is 7 people broke down my gate in my estate in Los Angeles and charged me in my backyard, and I walked them off the property at gunpoint. I didn't shoot them. I didn't touch them. But in California, even defending your property, even pointing a gun at somebody is a felony. So there you go.
So you had 7 felonies, huh?
Yep. They charged me with 7 felonies, and my first offer was life.
Well, Derek, I was in jail overnight. So, like for 8 or 9 hours.
Well, I spent 3.5 years, plenty of time.
I'm glad that that's your story, not mine, because I did not enjoy it even one little bit.
But I can tell you right now, I actually did enjoy it, because to me, the person, like I was saying, that Malia and I were talking about my attributes before, and I was showing her some of the things that I would do. I was nice, but at the same time, I would cut you off the knees if you did me wrong, right? I would make sure that that I made myself known, that if you crossed me, it would be a problem. And the remarkable thing is, what prison did to me was sit me down. And I've heard this from other people. When the Father sits you down and says, "Listen," it was amazing that I could finally, for the first time, hear the Father. I could be quiet. I was separated from the world. I didn't have a care in the world. I didn't have a need in the world. Food was made for me. I didn't ever want to leave my cell. I just loved reading, studying, listening, paying attention. And then when I did go out and get yard, I'd have a bunch of people follow me, because I would be teaching all the time. Even many of the, and I have been looking for him tonight to see if he joined the show, because he joined the last show. There's a few of the guards that I know, the lieutenant, people that follow my channel.
Oh, nice.
That from prison. So,
I went to jail with Rex Bear as well.
Yeah, I heard that. But it was, to me, a remarkable event, because, as I've said many times, is that if you were to climb a mountain, and during the climbing of that mountain, you slipped and fell, and the rocks tumbled and smashed on you and hit you, and at the bottom, you're laying in your puddle of your own blood. And at the bottom of that mountain, you look and you see, while you're laying in your own blood, the secret that you've been looking for your whole life. The truth was revealed to you at the bottom of that mountain. You can no longer be upset about the climb, the rocks, or the blood. or any of the pain. You now are thankful for every element of it. I can tell you right now that in my life, there isn't one thing that hasn't been revealed to me, not one single thing that wasn't a part of me getting here and being able to have this conversation with you tonight.
Yeah.
Everything plays a role in it. This is
Yeah.
why I try to tell everybody, be a passerby, meaning everything that takes place in your life, understand that this is a construct and it's already planned, and that the Father has you here because he is guiding you to these places.
And Derek, I just had to learn that over the past, several months, how to be a passerby and learn that, hey, it didn't come to pass. It didn't come to stay. It came to pass. And it's like, it doesn't matter what gets thrown at you in this life. If you don't fear death, you don't have to fear anything this side of death either. It doesn't matter.
Yes. And I could tell you that
it's mission. If it's not mission critical, it's not mission critical. It doesn't really matter.
Yes, and I can tell you that for me, I mean, they took me, first of all, I was a whole 19 points, and that's very, very low. That's the lowest level of security points you can have for prison. But they put me in a level 4 facility, right? We're talking with mass murderers, you name it, all of them, where people are killed on the yard every single day. And I have to tell you what's so remarkable about it is because I have zero fear of death, that people were scared of me because I had no fear. And I wasn't in their face, but I had people that come up to me. There was one guy that came up to me that ran the keys, had the keys for the blacks, and a Muslim guy. And he came up and he said to me, he said, I got to get to know you. And I was like, yeah, why is that? The guy's like 3 times my size. And I said, why is that? And he says, well, and I'm not going to use the swear words that he used, but he says, because every mother on the yard is, or you're the smallest mother on the yard, and the biggest mothers are scared of you. And so I said, well, sit down, let's talk. And he was like, I can't talk with you. I'm because race is a big divide in prison. He goes, I can't sit down and talk to you, dude. He said, they'll fill you full of holes. Like my own race would come and get me. And I was like, dude, nobody's touching me. Sit down, let's talk. And he was like, all right. So he sat down to talk. And I ended up teaching him. So the whole point is everybody, Odinist, you name it, that when you start having these conversations that we're having here with people, and none of these guys, here's the one thing that I recognize that I can tell you about prisoners. This is why it says, Jeff, in scripture, that he will be numbered amongst the transgressors, right? Because you will be broken off from the world. It is easier for these prisoners and these people, these races, these people that have been outcasts. It is far easier for them to separate themselves from the world. And inside prison, I'm telling you right now, when all hell goes, when everything goes to hell in a handbasket out there, I can promise you right now, those boys behind the prison walls will be the ones that you will be calling on to watch things for you, because they don't believe anything in this world already. They're already broken off from it. They're already broken off from it. They are far more willing to see and understand. And the minute you start speaking these truths that we're hearing, every single one of them already know it. Already know it.
I got one for you, Derek.
What you got?
You can never be free in this world until you realize that you're a prisoner.
Period. And that's why I said you have to accept.
Write it down. That was worth the price of admission right there.
Yes, you cannot be. You've got to recognize that you're in a prison. And this is, but Jeff, and this is why people hate us too, because I can promise you right now, I've seen these things take place in prison where somebody will, they'll voluntarily, let me just put it this way. If you went to the highest security, the max security prison, you go to Lancaster State Prison in California, right? You're talking a level 4 prison. There's murderers and lifers in there. Everybody's a lifer. Now, if you tore a hole in the wall, even lifers, if you tore a hole in that wall and you stood on the outside and you said, come on, I promise you that 99% of them would never come out of that. They'd never run out because they're terrified. Because
it's like that movie that you were involved in, Instinct, right?
Yes.
The great scene, one of the greatest scenes I've ever seen in a movie, when Cuba Gooding Jr. and Anthony Hopkins are there with that huge, massive gorilla, and he's back in the corner of that cage, and they're standing right in front of an open door out into the wilderness, and Anthony Hopkins opens up the door to that cage, and that gorilla is so beaten down that he won't even walk through the open door of the cage. And that's where some of you are. That's why Derek and I are so hard on Abrahamic religion, not because we hate religion, not because we might, not because we hate people, but because we hate the fear and guilt control matrix, because we hate the Stockholm Syndrome mindset that descends upon you, that Derek and I can open the damn door to your cage, show you freedom, and you won't even run out.
Stay right there. It doesn't matter how much we beg. And believe me, I've begged.
And it's not Cuba Gooding Jr. and Anthony Hopkins, but we're still doing our best, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm starting to look a little bit like Anthony Hopkins did in that movie.
You are a little bit. And if I get a little bit more tan, I might start looking a little more like Cuba.
Well, you know, it's funny. When I get a tan, the very funny thing is that I have friends that remember, you know, I would lay outside. I literally pour Crisco oil on myself and get a tan outside because the Indian Sicilian blood in me. I'm a Roman Jew. Who knew?
Now, do you pronounce his name Cuba or Cuba?
It's Cuba.
Cuba Gooding Jr. Okay.
Yeah, and you know what's so classic? I'll just tell you this. People will laugh at this. People would come up to him all the time and they'd say Cuba, and he'd say it's Cuba, and they would go, no, it's Cuba, and he's like, I think I know my name, right? It's Cuba. And they're like, no, but that's not how you pronounce it. And he's like, that's how you pronounce my name. It's amazing how people tell you what to think.
Crazy. If you can't even, but I mean, that scene in that movie is, and I've seen a lot of movies, but that's one of the scenes in movies that stick with me the most because I saw myself in that. It took, I mean, you know, people want to pat me on the back, say, oh, Jeff, it's so great that you came out, and Lou Machado is Cuban. It's so great that you came out of Christianity, and, you know, congratulations for you. What you don't know, and I don't tell it very often because it embarrasses me, but when I realized that I had to go, Derek, I was sitting in the basement of one of the few past churches I ever pastored. I was living in the basement, and I realized, oh, crap, this is wrong. There's Paul's religion, there's Christ's religion, and I'm on the wrong side of it. And if I'd have had any integrity, if I'd have had any true guts, I would have got up, got my family at that time, and gone out and got a real job. But the church was paying my bills, my car, my kids were eating 3 meals a day, had a wife at that time. And it took me probably 7 years, Derek, to get the integrity and the guts up to say, okay, I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. So before you pat me on the back and tell me what a great guy I am, realize it took me 7 years to build up the testicular fortitude to do what I knew that I needed to do.
You know, it does take a while. And sometimes you've got to, Jeff, look, you've got to be beat up a bit. Every single time you get smacked, you learn something new. You get down to another layer. Folks, our lives are the amazing part about the construct of this system is that it has put you in a web. You are the true you is at the center of that onion. You've got to peel layer after layer. So many people come and say, I'm woke, right? But the fact of the matter is, when you think that you've arrived somewhere is the most dangerous thing. You haven't arrived anywhere. All you've done was peeled one layer and, oh, I'm woke. No, you're not. Because then if you think that you're woke, you're never going to allow that next layer to be peeled. You got to keep peeling those layers, keep peeling those things, and keep peeling away from yourself, recognizing yourself when something comes up, how you respond. When you start paying attention to the attributes of the enemy within the scriptures, start paying attention to the attributes of the enemy within you. And then you'll find another layer to peel off. Every time you peel these layers away, you feel like it's a terrifying experience because you feel like you're losing yourself. And so I understand that. But at the end of that tunnel of losing yourself, you arrive and you finally recognize who you are, and you find yourself and you find the name that it says that I will give him a name that no one knows but himself. That name that you arrive at, nobody knows but yourself. You don't even speak it. It's yours. Period. And they wouldn't understand it if you said it. So keep peeling away at that. Don't think you're woke. Find the next layer of being woke.
Every time that I think that I'm getting close to getting it, I get knocked on my ass.
Yes,
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
And somebody asked, am I still peeling, Derek? You know, here's the remarkable part.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, still peeling.
Are you breathing?
And I'll tell you why. But
You're
here's
peeling.
the thing that here's the thing that you begin to recognize is I believe that I was stripped of so much, it was remarkable, down to the bare nothing. But in order to even exist, you'll put the layers back on. It's like getting dressed again. And you'll put those things back on and you go, oh my gosh. And then you peel that up. So you're constantly stripping the world off of you. You're constantly doing it. You wake up, all of a sudden you kind of feel yourself going in one certain direction and you recognize, what am I doing? Yep. And you can recognize old patterns rebuilding themselves on. So I am constantly, the very first thing that I do every single day is a process of a daily dying. I am daily dying to myself every single day. Every single day I go, you know, I start to think about the things that are important to me again, and I start peeling those back off. It is a daily dying. It is a daily experience, no question about it.
And Derek, you know, what I've been through the past few months, the one thing that really sticks out to me is something that you taught me, and it's what is mission critical and what is not mission critical. The mission is the most important thing. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm doing. That doesn't mean that's all I'm going to do, but if anything compromises or takes away from or weakens the mission, it's going to have to go.
It's got to go.
Period.
Yes, and once you've been given this mission, and I could tell you, Jeff, and you know it, you can feel it. It's once you've been given this task, there isn't anything else that will. First of all, there's nothing else that will do because everything else is insignificant. There is nothing more important than what we're doing right now. Nothing. This is it.
There really isn't nothing. And there's nothing more important than this. There literally isn't. Donald Trump doesn't have a more important job than Jeffrey Daugherty.
Not even close.
He doesn't.
Nope.
And, you know, I was good. Jimmy Swaggart told me one time, looked me right in the eye, and this is when Pat Robertson was running for president. And I asked him, I said, you know, Brother Swaggart, if they were to make you president, would you accept it? He leaned back in his chair and he laughed and he said, what did he say? I mean, he had a way with words. He still does. He said, if nominated, I will not accept. If elected, I will not serve. And he laughed and he said, Jeffrey, I would consider the presidency a demotion from being a preacher of the gospel.
That's probably the most accurate statement. Look, I mean, the guy's not perfect, but obviously,
No.
he was a seeker at one point, and I'm sure he's probably seeking now more than he ever has. The reality is getting past who he's been and what he's done in the past is probably difficult. He'd find himself better if he just started a YouTube channel. Quite honestly, just start a YouTube channel.
That's a good point. That really is. And, you know, obviously you can't excuse the things that he's done, but I tell you what, I'll tell you, and I don't know why I feel led to say this, but I'll tell you a couple things about Jimmy Swaggart. Number one, he's the leading selling gospel recording artist in history. And he's never used one dime of that for his own money. It's all gone into his ministry. And there's one thing about Jimmy Swaggart. He had a little trouble with the ladies, but he could get 7 cents out of a nickel. He was straight with $1.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know, the amazing thing is if you want to know the attributes of the enemy, Enki and Enlil, when you want to know Enki and Enlil's story, neither of them could keep it in their pants. So just to let you know, in the ancient scriptures, you got these two gods that are running the show, and neither of them could keep it in their pants. So Jimmy Swaggart is in good company as long as with them.
Well, even the great King David couldn't keep it in his pants, right?
No, none of them could. So that's all scripture, right? That's battling with this flesh.
And we're not what's the right word? We're not condoning that type of behavior by any means.
No, of course not. But the reality is that for me to point my finger at somebody else and say, oh, you're doing that wrong, immediately you got to point yourself back because we've all done this wrong. Mm-hmm. So
we know the stupid saying, if you're pointing your finger at anybody, there's at least 3 pointing right back at you.
Right back. Yep.
Depending upon how you do it.
Yeah, depending on how you do it. Well, I can point at you like this.
Exactly. Like that's how the Italians do it, right? Yo,
Yo, what up? So Jeff, we're at the 2 hour mark, so we'll close this out.
I guess you're gonna leave, aren't you? So here I am.
I'm gonna leave you there. I'll just leave you. You just continue with the channel. But
I don't have to go home, but I can't stay here in this Zoom, right?
You know what, Jeff? But maybe you can participate in the marathon. I've been thinking about having a marathon, basically, who is Jesus marathon.
Oh, that'd be great.
And we'll.
Who do you say that I am marathon?
Yes. Who do you say that I am marathon? 12 hours digging through the scriptures. We'll go 12 hours. And
all you need is you and me, Derek, for 12 hours.
12 hours. We could do this for 12 hours.
We only got 10 more. Let's just roll right now.
Let's keep going.
Willie is in the other room. No.
Let me get some more coffee.
I tell you what, I've done a lot of things in my life. I've been on 5 of 7 continents. I've free swam this far from 17-foot great white sharks. I've skated with NHL players. I've done a lot of cool stuff, but I have never done anything that I've hung out with Jerry Lee Lewis and Jimmy Swaggart, but I've never done anything that's anywhere close to as fun as this. And that's the truth. Yeah. And the crazy part is I've done a lot, just like you said, skated with the NHL players. I've participated in something that I did every single year with Jerry Bruckheimer called the Bruckheimer Bad Boys Invitational. It was a pro-am that we did in Vegas every single year. I've skated with Wayne Gretzky, Yari Curry. I was wanting to, that's one of the reasons why I wrote a screenplay, because I'm hoping my screenplay would hit and I could come play in that game. I wrote a screenplay called Open Ice about the first black hockey player in the NHL. Never made the movie, but I wrote it. Willie Ree, I think his name was. O'Ree or Willie Ree? Willie O'Ree, yep. O'Ree, yeah. Yep. This wasn't a documentary like or a biopic like that. It was more of a made up movie. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you had a certain person in mind to play the role in the movie. Yeah, there was. Yeah, it's cool. Well, I taught him how to play hockey, so he plays hockey today because I taught him how to play hockey. I was a goalie, Derek, and I would love to try to frustrate you. I played goal for a long time too, so you probably wouldn't. But I'm going to tell you a quick story. Mike Vernon, who played for the Calgary Flames. Yes, Calgary Flames. Stanley Cup winner, I believe, Mike Vernon. Oh, yeah. Talk about amazing, though. So a couple times. First of all, I was at the Pro-Am after you got Mike Vernon, and just to recognize just how amazing. Speaking of Dennis O'Leary, one hell of a hockey player. Oh, yeah. No question. And Dennis played with us all the time. And so Mike Vernon said to me, he goes, because we were playing, and during the game, it's amazing that I scored a goal. And he was like, that was an amazing shot, upper right-hand corner, amazing shot. And I was like, and I said, but something tells me that you could have gotten it. And he goes, and he lines up 4 pucks for me, and I'm 10 feet away from the net, right? He backs himself all the way into the net, and then he stands to the side of the net, Jeff, and he holds his stick in front of the net. And he goes, take your best shot. And I fired 4 slap shots at the net, directly at he's not even in front of it. He's next to the net, just holding his stick over. And all 4 shots, he just went ting, 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 and knocked all 4 of them away. And that's when I realized that these pros playing with us in this Pro-Am were just letting me score on them. It was awful. It was a terrible revelation for me. I remember when Al Iafredi, who was renowned for a great slap shot, he scored a goal on me, Derek, that I never saw, but I did hear it. Literally. Yeah, you just heard it fly by my ear. I heard it sizzle by my mask. Yeah, I started playing goalie when it was just a flat face mask. So I've gotten, I had that's way back when. I had 4 concussions by the time I was 16. So wow. Well, like I just texted to one of our faithful listeners, this is rabbit holing quickly. Yes. All right. Well, I want to tell everybody, Jeff, stick around after I go offline here so I can say goodbye to you, as you always say to your wonderful guests. And just want to thank. I'll be back, I think, in 4 or 5 days. My YouTube timeout is over. Oh, good. Oh, blah, blah. Was born and raised in Toronto. Something tells me they know how to skate. Well, I grew up in northern British Columbia, Canada. So I kind of had. I thought I detected a little bit of little Western Canadian in your mind. Well,
I was born in San Bernardino, California, which when you know where that really is and what that is, there's a whole other story to that I'll get to one day. But but primarily grew up in northern British Columbia, Canada. So that's why I play hockey.
But Derek, if you know anyone or any place where I could get some affordable used goalie gear, I might strap them back on. I'm getting the itch.
Well, hey, we can arrange that. I have some friends.
I was up to 250 and there was just no way I could do it anymore, but I'm about 10 days from 185 and I got the itch again. I've still got my mask, but I need everything else. So let me know if you have any hookups. I
could probably arrange something there for you, Jeff. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining the show tonight. We love you very much. And thanks for coming. And we will, I'm sure I'm going to try to get to you tomorrow. Jeffrey, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and find your channel.
This has been great, Derek. It's always an honor and a privilege to be with you. Just come over. If you can type in Christian Whistleblower, you can type in Jeffrey Darty YouTube. You'll find it. You'll find a lot of hate there too, but that's okay. And just come over to the YouTube channel. There's links to my website there. All of my apostasy and heresy in one convenient location. Just go ahead and visit. And if you'd like to subscribe, I would love for you to do so. And I can't wait to be back, to be able to go back live so we can have Derek back on the show. And I'm looking forward to the marathon, Derek.
Yeah, we'll figure out when we do that. And by the way, Tracy pointed out that the our lovely moderator that it was her idea, and yes, it was her idea for the marathon. And everybody, as far as Jeff's channel, if you go up to the little top right-hand corner there, you'll see the little inverted exclamation point. Click on that, and that will take you directly to Jeff's channel. And also down in the description box, I believe, subscribe to Jeff. I've got a link to his channel so you can subscribe there. Jeff's always got great content. We support each other, and when Jeff's back live, I'm sure I'll be on his channel and he'll be harassing me with some other crazy subjects that we could talk about, because we definitely, I think we're unique in this field in the way that we think a lot alike.
And I want to thank you folks that send me notes and emails, and thank you people that tell me, watch out for Derek, Derek's this, Derek's that, because you confirm for me what the Christ said, that beware if all men speak well of you. So thank you for your help. I really appreciate you solidifying my thoughts and faith. So thanks so much for your help.
Yes, and sending me your hate for Jeff or Steve at WSO or Naughty Beaver and all your warnings. What did you say about that, Jeff? Water off a duck's back?
Water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
Just shake it off, like the great American prophet Taylor Swift says, shake it off.
Well, I love everybody. And Jeff, like I said, stick around and so I can say goodbye to you. Everyone, thank you very much, and I will see you soon.